Hi everybody, welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. Well, it is the middle of February and I've had something in my refrigerator for probably like 5 months. And today is the day I need to deal with it. No, I am not taking you along to clean out my refrigerator, but what is it that I could possibly have in my refrigerator for 5 months that today I need to deal with? Well, it just happens to be about half of a bushel of apples. Now, these apples, unfortunately, are not from our orchard because our apple trees are too young to be producing, hopefully next year or the years to come. But in September, I bought some apples for us to enjoy throughout the fall and winter time. And now's the time that they're kind of getting a little bit iffy, but it's not too late for one particular special thing that we can do with apples, and that is applesauce. Now you're probably thinking, I'm going to can the applesauce. Well, no, I'm not canning applesauce today. We are going to freeze dry applesauce, something I haven't done yet, but I'm very excited to do. About a year and a half ago, we got a Harvest Right freeze dryer. We've been loving it because we like to preserve the food that we grow on our homestead or buy in bulk, like the apples. And we like to preserve them in ways that will last longer than just a year or two. And the Harvest Right freeze dryer is the perfect way to do that. Now, freeze-dried food, if stored properly, can stay good for up to 25 years, guys. So I'm 46. I could be preserving applesauce for when I'm 71 years old. Now, I don't plan to do that, but you guys, it's a really nice option for preserving the food that you grow on your homestead or in your backyard, or for bulk purchases of some high quality food. So I'm not gonna be embarrassed that I have had apples in my refrigerator since September. I'm gonna bring them into the kitchen. We're gonna make some applesauce and load that freeze dryer. Okay, guys, in from the extra refrigerator, and I'll show you that I have probably just under half of a box, and one of these boxes holds a bushel. These are apples that I picked up locally. Now, I don't remember what variety they are, but they're doing pretty good. Now, some of them are kind of beyond use, and we've missed the mark on some of these, but the good news is the pigs are gonna like whatever we don't use, and the cores and all those things are gonna go to the pigs. So I don't feel too badly that I've missed the timing on a couple of these. But you guys, I just want to let you know that apples that just are like a little soft, or maybe the skins are just starting to get a little wrinkly, those apples are not going to be good for eating. They're going to be pretty mushy, but they're perfect for applesauce. So if you have, 10 or so apples, or maybe even less than that you find in your refrigerator and you're like, my kids aren't going to eat this, turn it into applesauce and they will love it. So you guys, let's get started turning these apples into applesauce. It's super easy. I just need to wash these guys and then we'll get started. Well, the good news is there were only 3 apples that were too far gone to be used for applesauce. So we need to start cutting these up, and we need to get them into a big pot so they can start simmering down on the stove. I have a bowl for the parts that will go to the pigs, and we're just gonna get started. Now, there are several fancy gadgets out there that could help you with this apple process. You could use, one of these gadgets that kind of cores and slices the apples at once. You could use an apple corer just to take the core out and then slice them up. I actually have also one of those handy dandy apple peeler, slicer, corer machines. But today I'm just kind of feeling nostalgic. I don't feel like using any of those gadgets. I'm just gonna use a knife, do it the old-fashioned way like my grandma would. I've also decided not to skin the apples. I'm just going to cook the apples with the skins on them. Afterwards, I could either put them through a food mill to separate out the skins, but I'm actually gonna blend them up and incorporate them into the applesauce. I think that that will add nice fiber, added nutrition, and that's what I've just decided to do. And you know, if I were to use some of those gadgets to help me with this process, it would probably go faster than it is going to go. But you know what? Sometimes you can find joy in just the process of working with your fruits and vegetables. I just enjoy it sometimes. I don't need to always have something that makes everything faster. So that's just what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna go through all these apples, take out the cores, slice them into smaller pieces into this pot, and when I'm all done, we'll put it on the stove and let them start cooking down. Making applesauce reminds me of my grandma. She had a big apple tree in her yard, and I remember that she liked to make actually strawberry applesauce. I didn't get to see her very much growing up, maybe a few times a year, because I grew up in Wisconsin and she lived in Iowa. So this is a nice memory for me to have while I'm making applesauce for my family, that when I was growing up, she would make applesauce for us. Well, this is the last apple, and I guess this pot was the perfect size. I didn't know if it would be too small, but it's actually perfect. Not many more apples would have fit in there. So now we're gonna transfer this from the countertop to the stovetop. Okay, beautiful apples on the stovetop. I'm gonna add, this is actually 2 cups of water. I'm just adding it so that when I turn the heat on, the apples don't stick to the bottom. We're gonna turn on the heat. We're gonna put it on like medium high. I'm actually gonna cover this to trap in the heat and the moisture. We're gonna get this boiling. Once it's boiling, I'm gonna stir it every once in a while until it feels like all of the apples are hot and soft, and then we'll move on to the next step. But you guys, this is pretty easy stuff. So good for your family. I'm excited that I remembered that I had those apples in the fridge and that they weren't too far gone, that I can turn it into some nutritious food for our family. Sometimes when I make applesauce, I add sugar. Sometimes I add spices like cinnamon and nutmeg, and sometimes I also add lemon juice to make sure that the apples don't turn brown. And this time I just decided to go more natural. No sugar, no spices, no lemon juice. It'll be great. It'll be natural, and it will be more versatile if I want to use it in baking, if I want to spice it up when we rehydrate it. It's just gonna be plain this time. Well guys, that didn't take long at all. Everything is hot and kind of soft in there. Actually kind of looks like mashed potatoes. So, like I told you before, I am not going to worry about the skins that are in here because I'm gonna blend them all up. I'm gonna be using a Vitamix, which really does well blending everything up. So I'm going to be doing kind of batch by batch here, and when it's all blended up nicely, I'm just going to transfer what's in the blender container right onto a Harvest Right freeze dryer tray, so we can get that kind of cooling a little bit before we put it into the freeze dryer. Now, when we were looking for a Vitamix, Kevin actually found some that were refurbished on Amazon, and so that's where we got ours, and we saved quite a bit of money that way. And this really cool ladle, this is like the largest ladle I've ever seen in my entire life. I absolutely love it. And one of our subscribers over the summer sent that to us from Amazon. And so if you do a lot of cooking, a lot of canning like I do, check that out because it really is handy. Okay, we're just gonna put on the lid, and we're gonna put this little, I don't really know what you call that, but it will help us move things around in there in case it gets stuck. So it'll really blend everything up really well. That did a fantastic job. It got it really nice and smooth. Now I know a lot of people kind of like chunky applesauce, and sometimes chunky applesauce is good, but this time I'm making it pretty smooth. And honestly, our youngest daughter, Samantha, likes applesauce very smooth, so that's kind of what I'm going for. Even though we're freeze drying it, when we rehydrate it, it will be nice and smooth for her. Let's just see how much we can fit on these Harvest Right trays. It looks pretty good right there. Ready for another batch. Our applesauce is all set on the trays to go into the Harvest Right freeze dryer. However, it's a little on the warm side, so I'm gonna let it just cool here for a while before we take it to the freeze dryer. The freeze dryer will freeze it first, so I don't have to put this in the freezer, make it frozen first. I can just put it into the freeze dryer after it cools down a little bit. Now, a lot of times you'll see me pre-freezing things before they go into the freeze dryer, and really we do that so that the freeze dryer doesn't have to work so hard. And a lot of times that's because I already have something in the freeze dryer, but I also have something ready that I want to put in the freeze dryer next. So I'll put it into the freezer first so that the freeze dryer doesn't have to work so hard. It can go right from freeze drying something and have something pre-frozen just to go in there. So today I don't have anything in the freeze dryer, so I'm just gonna let these cool and put it right in the freeze dryer. Now I do want to tell you that when I freeze dry liquids, I pre-freeze them most of the time. It's just easier to handle these trays full of liquid if they're pre-frozen. So in that case, I put the trays in the freezer, I fill them with the liquid, whether it be broth or milk or some kind of juice, and I just leave it there carefully in the freezer to freeze, and then it's easier to load into the freeze dryer. But like I said today, once these cool, these are just gonna go right into the freeze dryer. Well, the trays are definitely cool enough, And so it's time to just start loading them. Our freeze dryer is the size medium, and you know, it's doing really well for us. We have been preserving for, like I said, a little over a year, maybe a year and a half now, and we are really loving it. Put them in here, close it up. Now I know that you can't see a lot of what's going on in here, but really just a couple of buttons to push and it really takes care of everything. It really is kind of set it and forget it technology. So I had just pressed start. Now I am indicating that the stuff that it put in here is not frozen. It's telling me to close the drain. Okay, continue. And now it's freezing because we put things in there that weren't frozen. The very first step it's going to go through is freezing, and it'll just go through everything until it's done. And we'll come back when it's done and we'll test it. I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll rehydrate some, taste it, and see what it's like. Well, you guys, all 4 pans of the applesauce are out of the freeze dryer. The freeze dryer is just like a little bit of a miracle machine, the way it works. All of the moisture is completely gone. It's like ridiculous. I was out there making sure that it was all done, and so I kind of cut a piece off of it. And I just want to show you, this is like freeze-dried applesauce. All of the moisture. Look at when I crack it, it's just completely dry. It's pretty amazing. I tried a bit and it is like, it tastes just like apple. I mean, it shouldn't surprise me, right, that it tastes just like apples, but it's just so amazing. It's awesome. Okay, well, the first thing that I'm gonna do with this is I'm gonna save out a little bit of it, put it in a bowl, because I want to rehydrate some of it and see how that works. We're just gonna put that in that bowl and then set this aside for a little bit. But I do want to kind of work quickly and package this up. We have these tools in the kitchen, and a lot of people use it to cut bread, or you can cut vegetables and stuff. This is Norpro brand. You can get these on Amazon, but they work really well to cut these into pieces that then I can package. And so I can then package this applesauce. I'm gonna use Mylar bags with an oxygen absorber. I'll seal it with like a heat sealer. I'll show you how that works. And then these will be good to go for long-term storage. So these really big funnels are really helpful in this situation too. I can just scoop these up, put them down in there, and they go right in the bag. So I'm just gonna get these all bagged up, and then we'll move on to the next step. So that batch filled 5 of these Mylar bags, and we did leave some out for snacking. I put an oxygen absorber in each bag, just like this. The freeze dryers come with one of these sealers. So I'm just going to seal the bag closed with this heat sealer. Check out the seal, looks great. And then we're just gonna label all of these. So I'm gonna finish these, and then we're going to add some water back to the freeze-dried applesauce that I reserved in the bowl, and see how it tastes. Well, it's the moment of truth with the freeze-dried applesauce. I'm going to just add some water and let it rehydrate here. I'm gonna stir it up a little bit. It's gonna take a little bit of time, I think. But you guys, it looks like it rehydrated perfectly. The consistency of it is amazing. Remember, I made it super smooth. And it looks exactly like it did when I made it. I'm gonna go ahead and take a taste of it. You guys, it's just like applesauce. It even feels just like applesauce. The texture is perfect. Now, as I was mixing this up, Kevin and I were talking, this is perfect homemade baby food, you guys. I mean, my girls aren't anywhere near ready to get married or to have kids, but I could be freeze drying food for my grandkids. This would be an awesome thing to continue doing. I think I'll continue doing that. So you guys, if you're like me and you find a bunch of apples still in your refrigerator from fall and they're getting a little iffy, don't forget about applesauce. And if you're venturing into freeze drying, definitely try freeze drying it for the future. It rehydrates like a dream, and dried, it tastes wonderful. It's a fun snack. You guys, if you're enjoying videos like this, make sure that you hit the subscribe button below. Also, remember that the best way to help us here on the homestead is just to share our videos on your social media. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care and God bless.